The Forgotten Warrior. The battlefield was silent. Only the smoke of war still rose from the broken ground. The stars above were cold, and the ruins below told the story of endless destruction. Ships had left in a hurry, carrying the survivors, and leaving the wounded behind. Among the broken weapons and shattered armor, one figure lay still. He was an alien warrior, once strong and feared, but now paralyzed. His body refused to move, his armor cracked, and his eyes burned with helpless rage. His people saw him fall, but they did not stop. They believed a paralyzed warrior was no longer useful. In their culture, weakness meant dishonor, and dishonor meant abandonment. The fleet pulled away, not a single hand reached out. The galaxy itself seemed to turn its face, as if this warrior had never existed. The alien tried to shout, but only silence left his throat. His mind was alive, screaming, but his body was broken. His enemies ignored him, his allies deserted him, and the endless night of space looked down without care. He thought his story had ended here, alone, forgotten, unwanted. Then footsteps echoed on the rubble. A shadow moved between the fallen walls. It was not one of his kind. It was a human soldier, his armor scratched, his face smeared with dust, but his eyes sharp and alive. The human carried a rifle slung across his back, but his hands were empty. He was not hunting, he was searching. And when his gaze fell on the alien warrior, he stopped. The human looked at the paralyzed alien with silence. His commanders had told him to ignore the fallen, to keep moving, to leave behind what could not walk, but something inside him refused. He saw not a crippled body, but a warrior's soul. He stepped closer, even though he knew others would call him a fool. The alien's eyes widened. He could not speak, but in his gaze burned both shame and surprise. Why would a human stop? Why would an enemy care? The galaxy had abandoned him. But this human kneeled down in the dust. Still alive, the human whispered, his voice low. He touched the alien's chest plate, feeling the faint rhythm of life. The human's heart told him one truth. Life should never be thrown away, no matter how broken. Behind them, the battlefield groaned. Distant sounds of war machines moving away, patrols searching, death still near. If the human stayed too long, he would be discovered. Yet he did not rise. His hand pressed firmly on the alien's shoulder, his eyes calm. The human thought of his own people. Humanity had once been weak, once ignored by greater empires. But they survived because they never abandoned each other. To leave one behind was to lose a part of themselves. He could not betray that belief now. The alien felt a strange warmth. In his world, weakness was punished. In this human's world, weakness was answered with courage. His chest tightened not from pain but from confusion. Could there still be hope, even for one forgotten? The human soldier glanced around. The ruins were dangerous. Enemies could return at any moment. He pulled the alien's heavy frame onto his shoulder, gritting his teeth under the weight. The alien was taller, stronger in flesh, but now he was dead weight. Yet the human did not stop. Step by step, he moved through broken metal and fire, carrying the paralyzed warrior into the shadows. Each sound of footsteps risked discovery. Each breath felt louder than thunder. Suspense filled the night, as if the stars themselves watched. Behind them, voices echoed. Enemy scouts, their words. Sharp, their steps closer. If they found the human with the alien, both would be executed without mercy. The human pressed his back to a fallen wall, holding the alien close. He waited, his heart pounding like drums. His finger brushed his rifle but did not draw it. Firing would reveal them both. Survival now depended on silence. The alien's eyes locked on the human's face. He saw sweat, he saw fear, but he also saw resolve. The galaxy may have turned away, but this one soldier carried him. against orders, against reason, against the cruelty of war. Minutes crawled like hours. The scouts passed, their shadows fading. The human exhaled slowly. He adjusted his grip and moved again, dragging fate with each step. The alien felt something he had not known in a long time. Trust. In his broken body, he carried despair, but in this human's hands, he carried hope. The galaxy had abandoned him, but this story was not over. Because a human soldier had chosen to stand beside him, and that choice was about to change everything, the human's choice. The human soldier kept moving through the ruins with the weight of the paralyzed alien warrior pressing against his shoulders. Each step felt heavier than the last. His legs ached, his back screamed, but his spirit refused to break. Around him, the battlefield was no longer alive with clashing armies, yet it was not safe. Fires burned in the distance, walls collapsed, without warning, and the echo of searching patrols filled the air like the whispers of death. The alien's body was lifeless in movement, but his eyes never left the human's face. Those eyes full of questions, disbelief, and a strange spark of something close. To gratitude, he did not understand why this man would carry him, why he had chosen to disobey every order, why he would risk his own survival for a stranger who could no longer fight. Far behind, the human's radio crackled, his commander's voice sharp and cold. "Do not waste time on the cripple. Move forward, soldier, regroup with the unit, leave the broken alien behind, he is not your concern." The words were heavy, final, filled with the authority of war. The human froze for a moment, his chest rising and falling. He could obey. He could drop this alien like everyone else had. He could escape easily, live to fight another day. Yet deep inside his heart, something burned brighter than the fear of command. He remembered the creed that every human carried in his blood. Never abandon, never leave one behind. Even if the galaxy mocked such a belief, humanity's strength was not in abandoning the weak, but in protecting them. The alien warrior saw. The hesitation in the human's face saw the shadow of choice. In his own world, no one would dare disobey such an order. Loyalty to command was absolute, but this human was different. The alien's throat ached, his voice would not come, but his eyes pleaded silently. Not for life, not for mercy, but for dignity. Even if death was near, he did not want to die discarded like broken equipment, and the human understood that silent plea. He pressed the radio to his lips and whispered, "Negative command. I cannot comply. I will not abandon him. I am taking him with me." He switched off the radio before the furious reply could reach him. Silence returned, and in that silence, the human felt free. The ruins grew darker as night stretched across the battlefield. The human found an abandoned shelter. The walls cracked but strong enough to keep them hidden for a while. He lowered the alien gently onto the ground, his breath ragged, sweat dripping from his face. His muscles trembled, but his eyes were steady. The alien looked at him, still, shocked, still trying to understand this madness. This human risked everything: court-martial, execution, even death at enemy hands, just to carry him, a warrior paralyzed and broken. Why? The human knelt beside him, his voice calm but filled with fire. "You may not walk, you may not fight, but you are alive, and as long as you are alive, you are worth saving. I don't care if your people turn their backs. I don't care if the galaxy spits on you. I am human, and humans do not leave someone to die alone." The alien's chest rose. His mind struggled against the culture he had lived in all his life. In his world, strength was measured by the sword. Weakness meant shame. Yet, here was a man telling him that life itself was worth more than pride. The words cut through the pain deeper than any blade could, and for the first time since the battle ended, the alien warrior felt a strange warmth spreading inside him. Outside, danger had not passed. Hunters moved in the night, their glowing eyes scanning the ruins, their orders simple: to kill anyone left behind. The human knew they could not stay long. Already he could hear footsteps, the clatter of alien steel. He gripped his rifle and positioned himself by the broken doorway. His heart pounded, but his will did not shake. The alien watched him prepare, saw in this man not just a soldier but something his people had forgotten long ago: honor in compassion, strength in kindness, power in sacrifice. The night dragged on. Every second felt like an hour. Patrols drew closer, their shadows creeping like predators. The human whispered over his shoulder, "Stay silent, stay strong. I will not let them take you." His voice carried no doubt, only certainty, and in that moment the alien realized the truth. This human did not see him as a burden, he saw him as a brother, and though his body was broken, though his strength was gone, his spirit stirred again. For the first time since his fall, the paralyzed warrior believed that maybe, just maybe, his story was not yet over. And as the footsteps of enemies grew louder, and as the firelight of search squads flickered across the walls, suspense tightened its grip. The human raised his rifle, ready to fight not for glory, not for orders, not for survival alone, but for the choice he had made. He had chosen to stand beside the forgotten, to carry the paralyzed when all others turned away. It was a choice that would shake his destiny, and soon it would shake the galaxy. The hunt begins. The silence of the ruins did not last long. For a brief moment, the paralyzed alien warrior and the human soldier rested within the cracked shelter, but the galaxy never allowed peace to linger. In the distance, the sharp roar of engines tore through the night. Enemy ships circled above, sending out squads of hunters whose mission was not to capture, but to kill. They had discovered that the alien warrior was not dead. Rumors had spread that he still breathed, and to those who feared his name, the thought of his survival was unbearable. If word reached the wider systems that the paralyzed general lived, old loyalties could awaken, rebellions could rise, and the fragile order of the Council would shatter. Thus the command went out: end his life, erase him completely, and silence any who stood in the way. The human soldier felt the tremor of the ground before he heard the footsteps. Heavy boots striking the broken soil, alien voices speaking in harsh tones, weapons humming with lethal energy. They were closer now, searching carefully, scanning every shadow. The soldier tightened his grip on his rifle, his eyes sharp, his breath slow and steady. He had made his choice. He would not abandon the alien, but now that choice would be tested with blood. He could have left him behind, slipped away into the night, and no one would have known. But instead, he had tied his fate to a man the galaxy wanted erased. Every second the danger grew, and yet his heart refused to bend. The alien warrior lay on the ground, his body broken but his mind alive. His sharp eyes followed the human's. Movements, the way he checked his surroundings, the way his muscles tensed at every sound. In the silence of his paralysis, the alien reflected on his life. He remembered commanding fleets, his voice once shaking entire armies, and yet in his moment of greatest weakness, when his own kind abandoned him, it was a single human who carried him. He wondered if fate was mocking him or if fate was giving him another chance. He could not move, but he could still think, and he could still feel the fire of defiance burning. In his chest, outside, the hunters spread out. Their voices grew nearer. They spoke of the bounty, of the Council's fear, of how no cripple should be allowed to live. Their laughter was sharp, cruel, echoing against the ruined walls. The human soldier closed his eyes for a moment, hearing their words, and a storm built in his chest. Humanity knew too well the sting of being mocked, ignored, and underestimated, and he would not allow that same cruelty to be repeated before his eyes. He whispered without turning his head, "They will not touch you, not while I still breathe." The night grew colder. The hunters set up beacons of light that pierced the dark. beams that swept across the ruins like the eyes of predators. The soldier moved the alien deeper into the shadows, every step slow, controlled, silent. The weight was heavy, but the fire in his spirit was heavier still. He carried him through, a maze of broken stone, each corner threatening discovery, each sound a risk. The alien could hear the soldier's heart beating like a drum, strong and steady, never faltering, and he realized this human was not carrying only his body. He was carrying his honor, his story, his very existence. The hunters finally drew close, their weapons charged, their helmets glowing. One stopped just meters from the shelter, scanning the ground, his weapon raised. The soldier froze, his finger near the trigger, his body like stone. He knew one wrong move would bring a flood of enemies upon them both. Suspense pressed against. The air, heavy and suffocating. The alien's eyes widened as he watched, powerless, his fate hanging on the human's will. The hunter bent down, examining the dust. He muttered something to his comrades, then moved forward, step by slow step. His light beam swept across the wall, inching closer to the hidden corner where the human crouched. The soldier's grip tightened on his weapon. His pulse thundered in his ears, but he remained still, waiting, trusting in silence. Finally, as if fate held its breath, the hunter turned away, his voice echoing as he declared the area clear. He walked on, unaware of the two figures hiding in the darkness. The soldier exhaled slowly, his jaw tight, sweat dripping down his brow. He adjusted the alien once more and whispered, "We move now. They will search again, and next time we may not be so lucky." Without waiting, he lifted him once more and pressed forward into the labyrinth of ruins. Each step a gamble, each breath a test, but he did not falter. The alien, though broken, felt his spirit stir with something he thought long dead: hope. As the night deepened, the hunters spread wider, their search growing more desperate. Their voices carried across the ruins, anger rising with every failed sweep. The council had promised them reward, but failure would bring punishment. They were relentless. They would not stop until the alien's life was ended. The soldier knew this, but he also knew something else. He would not stop either. His choice was clear, his path set. He had chosen to stand against the will of the galaxy, and in that choice was a defiance no army could crush. The alien looked up at the stars beyond the broken roof. His body could not move, but his mind whispered, to the sky, "If I survive this, if this human carries me through the fire, then I will never again accept the silence of betrayal. I will rise again, if not in flesh, then in spirit, and together we will shake the chains of this galaxy." His eyes burned brighter, and the human soldier who carried him did not see weakness anymore. He saw the spark of something the galaxy had forgotten, an unbroken soul waiting for its chance to rise again. And as the hunters closed in, and as the ruins trembled under the march of death, the hunt had truly begun. The galaxy wanted the alien warrior dead, but a single human soldier had chosen otherwise, and that choice would echo across the stars like thunder, secrets of the alien warrior. The night stretched endlessly as the human soldier carried the paralyzed alien deeper into the ruins. The sound of hunters echoed behind them like wolves howling in the distance, but for a brief time they managed to slip through broken tunnels and collapsed corridors until at last they found a chamber half buried under stone. The soldier lowered the alien carefully onto the ground, his arms shaking from exhaustion, his lungs burning for air. He sat beside him in the shadows, listening, waiting, his ears sharp for any sound of pursuit. The silence was uneasy, but for the first time since the battle they were hidden enough to breathe. The soldier wiped his brow and finally looked at the alien with a question that had burned in his heart since the beginning. "Why are they hunting you so desperately?" he asked softly, his voice low but firm. "I saw soldiers fall today. I saw generals run. I saw entire fleets retreat. But your name spreads like fire in their voices. They fear you more than death itself. Tell me why, because I need to. Know the truth of what I'm carrying." The alien's eyes flickered with pain. Both from his broken body and from memories far sharper than any wound, he struggled to form words, his throat dry, but at last a sound came, his voice rough, his tone heavy with the weight of long years. "You see me as a cripple now, as one. Abandoned by his people, but once I was not like this. I was a general, one of the greatest in my world. I commanded armies across the stars, and when I walked into battle, even the strongest enemies trembled." His voice cracked as the memory filled him. "But power makes enemies, not only on the battlefield but within your own walls, and betrayal is sharper than any blade." The human leaned closer, every word pulling him deeper into the alien's past. The warrior's eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, his expression torn between pride and sorrow. "I was betrayed by those I served. They feared not my weakness, but my strength, for I discovered truths that were not meant to be spoken. The council that rules our galaxy hides shadows behind its banners. They speak of order and peace, but their hands drip with the blood of the innocent. I learned that wars were not always fought to protect the people. Sometimes they were staged, designed to crush resistance before it could rise. The council breeds fear to keep control, and when I uncovered their secrets they marked me as dangerous. They could not allow me to speak, so they ensured my fall." The human's fists tightened. His jaw set. He had seen corruption before, even among his own kind. But the scale of this revelation was greater than he imagined. The galaxy itself was ruled by fear and lies, and before him lay the one who knew the truth. His eyes shifted toward the alien's broken frame, the paralysis that chained him, and he asked, "The battle, the wound that left you like this, was it truly an accident?" The alien closed his eyes, shame and anger mixing within him. "No, it was no accident. In the heat of war, I trusted those who stood beside me. I fought beside brothers, but one strike came not from the enemy but from the one I called comrade. A weapon slipped through my armor in the chaos, a poison designed not to kill but to cripple. They wanted me alive but broken, a symbol of weakness, a warning to any who might defy the council. They paraded me as a failure, then cast me aside. For they believed I would rot in silence, but fate placed me in your path, and now my silence may finally end." The human felt his chest tighten with fury. He looked at the alien not as a burden, but as a living truth, a voice that the galaxy had tried to erase, and he knew his choice to protect him was no longer just an act of compassion. It was rebellion. He whispered fiercely, "If the council betrayed you, if they fear your words, then we will make sure those words are heard. You may not walk, but your story will rise, and I will carry it if I must." The alien stared at him, disbelief mixing. With a spark of hope, in his world, compassion was weakness, and weakness was death. Yet this human spoke as if loyalty itself was strength. His voice trembled as he replied, "Do you understand what you are saying, human? To protect me is to make yourself an enemy of the council. They will not stop. They will send fleets. They will hunt you until your bones are dust. This path is not survival. It is war." The soldier leaned back against the cracked stone, his rifle across his knees, his gaze unshaken. "Then let them come. I already made my choice when I carried you. My life is not measured in how long I live, but in what I stand for. If the galaxy fears the truth, then I will stand beside the truth, even if it costs me everything." The alien's chest rose slowly, a fire igniting within him that no betrayal had managed to kill. He looked at the human and realized something extraordinary. His body may have been broken, but his spirit was alive, and this human soldier, reckless and stubborn, had given him back a piece of himself that he thought was gone forever. He whispered, almost to himself, "Perhaps the council was right to fear me. because now I am not alone. Beyond the ruined walls, the hunters continued their search, their voices sharp, their lights cutting through the night. But inside that chamber, a new alliance had been born. It was fragile, born of desperation, but it was powerful because it was built on truth and loyalty. The human soldier had chosen to stand beside the paralyzed alien, not because of orders, not because of reward, but because it was right. And now he carried not only a wounded body but a secret capable of shaking the stars. The galaxy had abandoned the alien warrior, but the human had chosen him. And in that choice, the first spark of rebellion against the Council was lit. It was small, hidden in the shadows of a ruined battlefield, but sparks have a way of growing into flames, and soon this flame would burn across worlds. The human soldier looked out into the night, his eyes fierce, and in the silence he made a vow that only the stars could hear. "They will not silence you, not while I still draw breath." And in that vow the future began to change, against the galaxy. The ruins no longer felt like shelter. They had become a cage. The human soldier knew the hunters would not stop searching. And the longer they waited, the tighter the circle would close. Every breath of silence was borrowed time, and every moment wasted was a step closer to death. The paralyzed alien warrior lay against the cold stone, his mind alive with the fire of memories and the sting of betrayal. The human sat beside him, his rifle resting across his knees, his eyes sharp and watchful, but his thoughts churned with a storm of choices. He had chosen this path willingly. He had chosen to carry this broken warrior, and now he was bound to it. For him, there was no turning back. Outside, the hunters called to one another, their voices spreading like an iron net through the ruins. Beacons of light lit the sky, scanning the ground in great sweeping arcs, and every shadow shrank before them. The human soldier pressed his hand against the alien's chest plate and whispered, "We cannot wait here any longer. They will corner us, and once they find us, there will be no escape. If we are to live, we must move. But if we are to fight back, we must make them bleed." His eyes burned with the same defiance that had carried him this far. His words were not of fear, but of decision. The alien warrior studied him with calm eyes, broken in body but not in spirit. "You carry me like dead weight, yet you speak of fighting back. Do you understand what you are saying? Human. One soldier and one crippled general against hunters, fleets, and an empire. This is not survival. This is madness." His voice carried both doubt and curiosity, a strange blend of hopelessness and admiration. The human looked back without flinching. "Perhaps, but madness is what humanity has always been accused of. We dream when others surrender. We fight when others run. And when the galaxy mocks us, we stand taller. If they want to hunt us, then let them. But they will learn that we do not go quietly." The alien's lips curved in the faintest trace of a smile. "Something rare for a warrior who had lost everything," he whispered. "Very well then. If you wish to fight, I will guide you. My body is broken, but my mind is still sharp. I was a general once, and I still know how to break armies. If you will, be my hands. I will be your eyes." The human nodded, a bond sealing between them that no oath could have made stronger. Together they studied the ruins. The human carried the alien deeper into an abandoned complex, walls of twisted steel and shattered glass rising around them. It had once been a command outpost before the war destroyed it, but now it was a labyrinth of tunnels, chambers, and corridors. In those broken bones of a dead structure, the alien found strategy. He directed the human to set traps using scraps of metal, broken wires, and fuel cells left behind. The human worked with steady hands, turning ruins into weapons, setting explosives under collapsed beams, rigging charges in narrow halls, and scattering false trails to confuse the hunters. Every move was a risk, every second stolen from the enemy's gaze. But slowly the ruins transformed into a battlefield designed for survival. The hunters closed in, their voices sharper, their lights brighter, confident that their prey had nowhere left to run. They believed they were chasing two broken figures, a cripple and a reckless human. They did not see the truth. They did not know that the hunted had become the hunters. The first group entered the complex, their boots heavy against the metal, their scanners sweeping the walls. The human crouched in the shadows, his rifle ready, his breath silent. The alien whispered directions, every movement precise, every step calculated. And when the hunters crossed the threshold of a broken hall, the charges lit with a thunder that shook the ruins. Metal collapsed, flames roared, and screams of confusion filled the air. The soldier sprang into action, his rifle blazing, precise and ruthless. Each shot struck true, guided by the calm voice of the alien general beside him. Hunters fell, their weapons clattering to the ground, but more pressed forward, their numbers endless. Their shouts echoed with fury, and the battle stretched into a deadly dance of fire and shadows. The human fought with skill, his body fast and strong, but it was the alien's mind that turned the tide. From his paralyzed frame he directed the flow, telling the soldier when to move, when to strike, when to fall back. Together they moved as one, a unity of flesh and spirit. The hunters grew restless, their confidence broken. They had expected an easy kill, but instead found themselves bleeding in the ruins. Each time they advanced, another trap exploded, another comrade fell, another scream tore through the night. Fear began to spread among them, and fear was the first step toward defeat. The alien watched from his place on the ground, his chest rising with pride. For the first time since his betrayal, he felt alive again, not because his body was strong, but because his spirit was free. The human had given him that freedom, and now he was returning it with wisdom. The battle raged for hours, the ruins trembling with fire. The human grew weary, his muscles heavy, his breath ragged, yet he did not stop. His determination burned brighter than exhaustion. His will was unshaken. The alien's voice carried him through, steady as steel, a reminder that they were not alone. Each victory, each trap, each enemy that fell proved that the galaxy was wrong to abandon them. At last, the surviving hunters retreated, dragging their wounded, their voices full of curses and fear. They would return with greater numbers, but for now, the night belonged to the human and the paralyzed alien. The ruins were silent once more, but this time the silence was different. It was no longer the silence of abandonment, but the silence of victory, small yet powerful. The human sank to the ground beside the alien, sweat dripping, his chest heaving, but his eyes alive with fire. The alien looked at him, his voice low but filled with pride. "You fight like one who carries more than his own life. You carried me through fire, through darkness, and through death itself. Today we stood not as man and cripple, but as warriors together. Do you see now, human? Against the galaxy we may still stand." The soldier leaned back against the wall, his rifle across his lap, his voice steady though tired. "Yes, I see it now, and I know this is only the beginning." The stars above remained distant, cold, and endless, but in the heart of the ruins 2 figures defied their silence, one paralyzed, one alone, yet together stronger than entire fleets. The galaxy had turned its back, but in that betrayal a new fire had been born. It was not survival alone that guided them now. It was defiance, rebellion, and the unshakable truth that even in the face of the impossible, a human soldier and a fallen alien general could rise against the galaxy itself. The rising defiance. The ruins lay in silence after the battle, but it was not the silence of death anymore. It was the silence of a storm gathering, a silence heavy with the weight of change. The hunters had been broken, their retreat a sign of weakness that no enemy of the Council had ever managed to force before. The human soldier sat beside the alien general, his body aching, his armor scorched, but his spirit burning brighter than ever. He had defied orders, He had defied death, and now he had defied the will of the galaxy itself. The alien warrior looked upon him not as a reckless fool, but as something far more dangerous to the Council. A symbol of loyalty that could not be corrupted, news of their defiance spread like whispers carried by the wind. The hunters who survived carried the story unwillingly. Their words reached other ears, slaves chained on distant mining colonies, soldiers forgotten in abandoned outposts, refugees hiding on lawless worlds. All heard the tale of a paralyzed alien warrior whom the galaxy had abandoned, and the single human soldier who chose to stand beside him. To the broken, it was not madness, it was hope, for in a galaxy where betrayal was the law, the act of one man refusing to abandon another became a flame that lit the dark. In hidden corners of the stars, that flame began to grow. On one world, a worker laid down his tools and whispered that perhaps they too could resist. On another, a deserter from the Council's fleets swore that the Council's lies would not hold forever. In prisons, in slums, in forgotten places where voices had been silenced, people began to speak again. They did not know the names of the human or the paralyzed general, but they knew the truth, that someone had defied the Council and lived. The alien warrior lay against the stone, his body unmoving but his mind racing. He felt the weight of destiny pressing upon him again, the same destiny the Council had tried to bury when they left him paralyzed. He realized that his survival was no longer just about revenge or even about honor. It was about giving voice to all who had been silenced, to all who had been left behind as he was. His betrayal had broken his body, but this human soldier had given him back his spirit, and now that spirit was rising not just in him but across countless others. The human soldier, weary yet unshaken, sat with his back to the wall, his rifle always ready. He spoke softly, almost as if to himself. "Do you hear it? The silence feels different now. It is not the silence of defeat. It is the silence before something greater. They think we are alone, but we are not. Already they fear the story of what we have done. Already they try to silence it. But the harder they try, the louder it will spread." His words carried certainty, not just as a soldier, but as a man who had seen his choice grow into something larger than himself. The alien's voice came low, thoughtful. "Long ago, I believed strength was in armies, in fleets, in the power of weapons. But I see now that true strength lies elsewhere. Strength lies in the choice to stand when others bow, to remain loyal when others betray. You, human, have shown me that even a single act can shatter the chains of fear. Perhaps this is why the Council feared me, not because of my armies, but because of my refusal to kneel. And now, with you beside me, that refusal is greater than ever." Beyond the ruins, the galaxy trembled. Fleets of the Council still ruled the stars, their banners stretched across worlds, but cracks were forming. Whispers became murmurs. Murmurs became shouts, and those shouts would one day become war cries. The Council demanded silence, but silence was no longer possible. For every hunter that fell, for every lie uncovered, the truth spread wider. The human soldier and the alien general began to move again, leaving the ruins behind. They traveled by night, hiding in the bones of dead cities, crossing wastelands under starlight, always hunted, never safe, but never broken. Along the way, they found others who had heard their story, exiles who offered food, deserters who offered information, strangers who risked everything to help them. Each encounter proved that their fight was no longer theirs alone. The rebellion was not built in great halls. It was built in the shadows, in the hearts of the forgotten, carried by the story of one man who chose not to abandon. The alien's paralysis remained, his body chained by betrayal, but he had become more powerful than he ever was before. He was no longer just a general. He was a symbol. His broken body told every slave, every soldier, every prisoner, that even when crushed you could still rise, not in flesh but in spirit, and the human soldier by his side proved that loyalty and courage could change the course of stars. Together they became a legend not written in banners but whispered in secret, until those whispers shook empires. The Council began to respond. Their broadcasts declared the alien dead. Their hunters doubled their patrols. Their propaganda painted humans as dangerous traitors. But the harder they tried to bury the truth, the more it spread. The more they hunted, the more defiance grew. The galaxy was waking, slowly, painfully, but it was waking. And the spark that woke it was born from the ruins where one soldier refused to walk away. One night, as they rested in the shelter of an abandoned transport, the human looked out at the stars, his face hardened by fire and dust. They call us enemies. They call us traitors. But we are not traitors to truth. We are traitors only to lies. If the galaxy calls this rebellion, then so be it. Let them know that we will not kneel. Not today, not ever. The alien listened, his chest heavy with emotion, and he whispered back, "The galaxy turned away from me, but you turned toward me, and because of that, countless others now turn too. This is no longer about one human and one alien. This is about all who still believe in honor, and soon the stars themselves will remember what it means to defy." And so the fire spread unseen, a rebellion not of armies but of hearts, a movement born not from power but from loyalty, a rising defiance that would one day break the chains of the galaxy, and in the center of it all stood a paralyzed alien warrior and the human soldier who chose to stand beside him. The spirit, unbroken, D. Galaxy was no longer silent. The whispers of rebellion had grown into a storm, carrying across systems, reaching the ears of the broken, the enslaved, the exiled, and the forgotten. The Council still clung to its throne of lies, broadcasting its propaganda, unleashing hunters, and sending fleets to crush any spark of resistance. But the fire was spreading faster than they could contain it. At the heart of this fire stood the paralyzed alien general, once discarded, and the human soldier who had carried him through ruins and shadows. Together they had defied death, and together they had awakened something the galaxy thought long dead: hope. The human soldier marched through a wasteland of steel and ash, the alien resting upon a makeshift platform strapped to his back. His steps were heavy but unwavering. Every mile carried them closer to the stronghold of the Council, the place where betrayal had been born. It was a place guarded by fleets and armies, a fortress that no rebel dared approach, but the human walked toward it as if the stars themselves guided his path. The alien spoke quietly behind him, his voice rough but steady. "You understand what awaits us. If we face them there, we may not return." The soldier's reply came without hesitation. "I know, but if we do not face them, then no one will. They tried to bury your story, but I will make sure the galaxy hears it." When they reached the edge of the Council's dominion, their path was no longer hidden. Scouts saw them. Hunters surrounded them. Weapons glowed with deadly fire. The Council itself looked down with disdain, mocking that a crippled alien and a single human dared approach. They expected surrender. They expected silence. But what they found was defiance. The human planted his feet firmly on the scorched earth, his voice loud enough to shake the silence. "You cast him aside because you feared the truth. You tried to erase him because you could not erase his spirit. But know this, he is not alone, and neither are we." The alien's eyes burned brighter than ever. He was paralyzed in body, but his spirit stood taller than any soldier before him. His voice rose, carried by the winds of destiny. "You betrayed me to keep the galaxy blind. You poisoned me to keep me silent. But you cannot silence the truth. The people have already heard it, and they will not forget. You thought weakness was death, but you were wrong, because loyalty is strength, and compassion is power, and together they are unbreakable." His words echoed across the battlefield, carried by transmitters hacked by rebels in the shadows, broadcast into the very skies the Council thought it owned. The human raised his rifle as the enemy advanced, and the alien directed him like he once directed armies. Every shot struck true. Every step became a symbol. The battle was uneven. The odds impossible. Yet the sight of the human fighting beside the paralyzed general became more powerful than victory itself. Across distant systems, people watching the broadcast began to rise. Slaves dropped their chains. Soldiers abandoned their posts. Fleets turned against their masters. The rebellion no longer whispered, it roared, and its roar shook the throne of the Council. The fight stretched through fire and blood. The human soldier was wounded, his armor cracked, his body torn, but he refused to fall. Each time he stumbled, he rose again, not for himself, but for the warrior he carried. The alien watched him with unspoken pride, seeing in this man the reflection of a spirit the galaxy had long forgotten. At last, when the enemy drew too close, the human placed the alien on the ground and stood in front of him, his voice raw but unyielding. "If they want you, they will have to go through me." The alien's voice thundered, though his body lay broken. "No, they will not go through you. They will go through us." And for a moment it was as if his spirit lifted his body, as if his paralysis no longer bound him. His eyes blazed. Like fire, his words like a blade. "I may never walk again, but I will never bow. My body is broken, but my spirit is unbroken, and that is something you can never kill." The Council's soldiers hesitated. Their steps faltered, for they did not see a cripple and a fool. They saw defiance incarnate. They saw a man carrying loyalty and a warrior carrying truth. And in their unity they saw the birth of something far greater than fleets and thrones. They saw the end of fear. The battle did not end that day in triumph. The human was dragged into the fire. The alien's voice thundered until the skies shook, and though the Council rained destruction upon them, the truth had already escaped, carried through every hidden channel, carried through every broken chain, carried through every whisper of rebellion. The Council could burn their bodies, but it could not burn their story, for their story had become the rebellion itself. And so the galaxy remembered them not as a cripple and a reckless soldier, but as brothers who stood against empires, as warriors who carried one another when all others turned away. Their names became legend, their defiance became the heartbeat of rebellion, and their spirit, though tested by betrayal, fire, and death, remained unbroken. The stars stretched endlessly above, cold and eternal, but among them burned a flame. The Council could not extinguish, a flame born from loyalty, courage, and the choice of one soldier who refused to abandon the fallen. That flame was carried from world to world, from voice to voice, until it became a firestorm. The galaxy had turned away from the paralyzed alien warrior, but a human soldier chose to stand beside him, and in that choice the galaxy itself was changed forever.